in my opinion. And if you're in your 20s and you're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? You have so much time.
Mm-hmm.
And I would just say, fail, try, go for proximity to the hole, try to hit the 300-yard drive if you can.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to part 2 of this exciting section in the 9 disciplines. This is the family portion, and it's appropriately, I think, going into 2 episodes because we have such a big family. In case you didn't know, we have 7 amazing, beautiful children. That is 5 boys and 2 girls, and yes, they are all ours. The oldest is 25 going on 26, and the baby is 5 going on 6. And we have a standard joke going around that says if you have children, we probably have children in that same age bracket somewhere along the lines. So, Jeff, thank you so much for opening up your heart and letting us all come in and listen to what you have to say. And you and I'm just so thrilled.
Thank you for doing the hard work and the heavy lifting to do the promotion and the project management and being.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm thrilled that we get to do
You're the
this
producer.
together. I really feel like it's important that we're able to gift this to our children and in the future our children's children as a document as to what we did and how we lived. And I know that it's been on your heart recently to talk about like the many jobs that you've gone through. We were talking just today in the car about every shot counts and getting that it's not about getting it perfectly in golf. If you didn't in the future episode, in the previous episodes.
For those of you golf statisticians out there
Hey.
who are interested in how the PGA Tour changed their putting KPI from number of putts per round to strokes gained putting, this will make some sense to you.
Yeah, I mean, we
And if
we
that's
have
not
read.
you might.
You
It
did
might not.
professional golf, meaning you were going into qualifiers. You were doing it on the side for 10 years.
Yeah.
And through that 10-year process, you had a coach. And I know that we both read like countless
the sports psychology
books for
mental
everything.
toughness training.
Yeah, like from Utopia, 7 Days in Utopia.
7 Days in Utopia, and then The Psychology of Tournament Golf, also by David Cook, which was really, really
And then who's
good.
the one here in Santa Cruz? That's not the Cook is in Texas.
That is Scott Zimmerman will remind me. We'll see if it comes.
Okay.
We'll see if it comes up, but it's actually Big Sur.
Okay.
And it's a golf retreat, a meditative golf retreat at Carmel Valley Ranch.
Yeah, Zen and the Art of Golfing.
Yeah, but that's what the folks that did Golf in the Kingdom movie.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a transcendental, meditative.
And the reason why we bring up golf is and it's so funny because so much of our
Shoemaker.
the way that so much of our life, the way that we even raise our children is like as I'm reading these golf psychology books going, there's such a parallel between life and golf, and you have the big hitters and you have the short hitters and you have but just today we were talking about Brodie, right?
Mark Brodie
Mark
wrote
Brodie's book.
a book. Yeah, Mark. So the story is Mark Brodie, who was a statistician, did a master's program, and for his thesis, he took the shot link data, which is measured in PGA tournaments. They take a laser, they shoot the player, they take a laser, they shoot the hole, and then the distance between those two, and the computer figures it out. And that system is called ShotLink, and it figures out, okay, he's 159 yards from the hole, and then they say he's got a 6-iron or hope not, maybe a 9-iron. But that ShotLink data started getting tracked in maybe 2002 or 2004 because of this massive amount of data that was coming in because of the Golf Channel. And so Mark Brodie did a master's thesis and said, what can I learn from this ShotLink data? And he writes a book about his findings called Every Shot Counts. And that book was so influential in the PGA Tour KPIs, key performance indicators, that the PGA Tour actually started publishing stats based on Mark Brodie's statistician work versus what they had before.
And the reason why we brought that up in relation to life was his whole thing is like, okay, It's not about perfect. Like the old way of thinking was you got to get it on the green in 2. You got to get, you
Yep,
have to be in
fairways
the
and greens.
fairways and greens,
Yeah.
fairways and greens. And his new philosophy and his new concept was it's not about getting it right on the green, because you can be out in the woods as long as you're not out of bounds. You can be out, but if you're closer to the hole, if it's within
That's right.
proximity to the hole, then you've actually set yourself up for a better next shot. And so
That's right.
we were talking about how when we have an end picture, so let's say for us, I told a little bit in the last episode about I had this picture of 12 12 seats around the table, and I really wanted to see. And a lot of times that got me through baby delivery number 1, baby delivery number 2, baby delivery number 3, baby delivery number 4, 5, and 6 was this image and this picture I had of this final product. And I was able to take a long-term vision after 25 years of being pregnant or may become pregnant, nursing pregnant or may become pregnant, because of this hole that I was getting to. And with each child, I was getting closer to the hole, getting closer in proximity to the hole. And it wasn't about doing it perfect. It was just about getting to this picture. And so my question to you and the whole Jeff Heilman project and anybody else who's doing their own project of their own, like, where do you see, when you think about your life and these kids and the family and all of the jobs that you've had and the jobs that you've lost, like, what is the, and it doesn't need to be you don't need to share dollar amounts or anything, but what is that final,
In the beginning, there wasn't any dollar
what
amounts.
is that final whole that with each position and each thing that you're getting that you're getting closer and closer to look like?
I would say that it could be the same for anybody. It would be debt-free outside of your investment properties
Okay.
and living on half what you make. That would be the whole.
And so with each position and each job loss, because you were before we started recording, you were like starting to write them down, and there's been quite a few. With each position
47.
and with each job, 47 that you've had, and at the reunion we talked about earlier on the one of the episodes, you're like, and it's probably going to be 100 more by the time that I die. Like having it queued up to understand that you're not trying to make it perfect, that you are going to hit it out to the woods, and you are going to hit it into the sand trap, and you are going to hit it out there.
Big hitters. And so there's a book called Mind Over Golf by a guy named Dick Coop. Richard Coop goes by Dick Coop. And he was a PGA Tour mental toughness coach and trainer. And there's probably 4 or 5 of those guys in the world who have floated around coaching one player or another. Not a swing coach, not a physical therapist, not a massage therapist, not a chiropractor. This is a mental toughness coach guy specifically for professional athletes, and even more so in the area of professional tournament golf on the PGA Tour. And in his book, Mind Over Golf, Dick Coop talks about this anomaly that happened one day. I won't mention the name of the player. You can read the book if you want, but it's he's a famous golfer. But he's in the backyard of this player's home, and he had this epiphany, this click in his head. He's like, this guy's backyard is immaculate. And he happened to be a very short driver of the ball off the tee. So by PGA Tour standards today, they're all over the place. You got your Bryson DeChambeau, who averages 325 to 355. Sometimes they'll have really big hitters.
Sounds like somebody I know.
And I don't usually hit it beyond about 310. But I would consider myself a longer hitter during the time that I was playing competitively. But he noticed that in all the players that were short hitters off the tee, their backyards were meticulous. Consistently.
Well, you're definitely a big hitter.
And my backyard is a mess. We were just having a discussion about spraying for weeds this morning.
Yes.
And all the guys that were big hitters had messy backyards, regardless of their physical size. Case in point, look at Ricky Fowler. Ricky Fowler is one of the longest guys on tour, and he weighs 160 pounds soaking wet with the hair. I mean, he's not a physical prowess guy at all. Tiger Woods is much larger than Ricky Fowler. He probably outweighs him. He could probably eat Ricky Fowler for breakfast. John Rahm, also huge guy. But the point of that story about Dick Coop and being in this tour player's backyard was that he saw that being a long hitter was much more a functionality of personality type than it was physical strength or ability. And that probably 15 years ago, you started talking to me about you are a big hitter. Your life is a mess.
It
Your
helped
finances are a mess.
It helped reading Mind Over Golf.
Your backyard
Yeah.
is a mess.
Mm-hmm.
Your tax return, well, I mean, pick your area of detail and focus. My pipeline and sales, this podcast half the time is a mess, and yet it's consistent with people that take big risks, take big hits, take huge swings. And this gets to Mark Brodie's stats. And again, if there's anybody on here who's like, I could give a rip about golf, this is about family. This is about being a big hitter for your family. What Mark Brodie figured out was that if you drive the ball 275 yards and you're in the middle of the fairway, or if you drive the ball 335 yards and you're in the fairway, in the old stat, it would say, well, you're in the fairway. You had 14 fairways this round or 12 fairways this round. But one person who's hitting 275 isn't just hitting a short. He's not just hitting short off the tee with his driver. He's hitting short with every club. So he would be hitting to a par 5, let's say. He would be hitting driver 3-wood sand wedge, or somebody who's hitting 325 or 330 off the tee, same fairway drive, but not all fairway drives are considered equal because of proximity to the hole. The big hitters are closer to the hole in almost every occasion, and whether or not they're in the fairway, with the modern equipment, the golf ball that goes further, the wedges that can grab better, and any type of grass that's first or second cut that's not considered fairway and it's not U.S. Open rough, they're hitting sand wedge into a par 5 versus three wood in a sand wedge or pitching wedge or 9-iron. And so there's a significant advantage being closer to the hole on your approach shot. If I go toe-to-toe with an amateur and I'm hitting my approach shot from 230 yards and he's hitting or she's hitting their approach shot from 80 yards, they're going to wipe the course with me because of the proximity to the hole. And so what we were talking about today was that I might end up in the rough or a sand trap or behind a tree or an unplayable lie 47 times in my personal, professional, and financial life. But I do drive the ball 320 off the tee. And as a result, because of my personality type being consistent with how I see myself to be a big risk taker, a big player, a big hitter, that because I've been consistent with that, because I've been consistently inconsistent as a big hitter, if I can just learn to reel it in just a little bit, if I cannot go into a large company and do the full Monty, Beetlejuice approach to Jeff Heilman.
Fool your friends,
Learn
have
to
fun at
throw your
parties.
voice. Fool your friends, have fun at parties.
That guy, yeah.
That guy, hey, yeah. If I can keep from doing that and let people get to know me for 6 months or a year, and then just little bits of the balloon, just little bits of air of the balloon out of this larger-than-life personality that I've been endowed with, it will allow me to take advantage of closer proximity to the hole off the tee without being an orangutan with hitting the ball into the stands, killing people with a hit in the head, beating them on the head from the gallery, or missing putts or missing chips or ending up in the sand traps. If we can just curtail it in just a little bit. So this family is a big hitting family. Our oldest son was on a nationally televised show when he was 18. He was on TV before I was. The next son had a huge Instagram following, hundreds of thousands of followers. The next child, our oldest daughter, has a TikTok following that's growing and has posts that have over 1 million views. You have thousands of followers and have had Jessica Builds.
I'll be launching my website.
I'm launching your website in June. Andrew's making a movie right now and has a blog on Facebook. So our family is doing things that are in the public eye, and we're not afraid to swing big and miss big.
If it means the proximity.
If
and
it
that's
means
the point, is that
the
it's going
proximity to the
forward
hole
every
says,
time.
we may have crashed and burned a bunch of times, but we're also a lot closer to being worth, $50 or $100
And
million
we're not afraid to play.
than we were when we started.
We're not afraid to play.
Absolutely
Like
not.
how many times, and this was me. I was the one.
You were chicken strips and fries.
I was the fear that I used to build up in my mind, even to go to like the driving range, and just sticking with the analogy of golf. Like I wouldn't have even gone because of the fear that I had that if I stood up to the ball and swung and missed, that the joking, the laughing, it would have been it would have, like, I would have died of embarrassment because I know that I would swing and I would miss the ball and the ball would still be there, or it would only go like 1 foot.
Which is crazy because you're a great player.
Well, but I had to overcome in my own mental, and I had to comprehend and be able to understand that, like, if you take the club head back, and just keep it in a line and swing through and just don't go offline.
Yep.
As long as you just keep it back and go through it,
45 degree angle.
you will hit the ball and the ball will come off the club.
That's right.
And so there's things in life, like if you do go to the interview and you do show up, you will have an interview. Whether it sucks, whether it's great, you're going to have an interview when you show up to the interview.
That's right.
As long as you swing it straight back and straight through the ball, you will hit it. And so being able to talk to our kids and be able to talk about life and being able to like go through all it, like each time that you did have a job, and we can honestly say, looking at all of the positions that you had, that you were, John Maxwell talks about it, you were failing forward in each role. Like you never. We
both were. And with the kids and how you raise the children, and
it was always taking what we learned from the previous encounter and how did we learn from that and what can we take from that. And so we're getting closer. The proximity to the hole is getting closer and closer and closer to that picture. And for you, like you said, your picture was, living on half of what you make and being able to be not in debt.
It doesn't matter what your stock market portfolio or your annual returns are. If you're putting half of what you make into investments, you're gonna make $100 million by the time you die. There's just no way not to. And
I think that as long as so many people don't even have a picture or an idea, like when I'm going through marriage counseling with the people that I've given marriage counseling to before, I really like to sit down and talk with them and see, can you see the thing that many times have gotten us through our marriage challenges and it's stressful going through 47 different jobs and raising 7 children and moving 11 million times. But me just taking that center and closing my eyes and finding, I have this picture in my mind of being on this front porch and I'm in a rocking chair and you're in a rocking chair and I look at our little wrinkled, tan. For some reason, we've got really tan skin. We're really dark. Maybe we're in Florida. I don't know. But I'm reaching over and you're putting your hand in mine and I'm putting my hand in yours. And we're just rocking back and forth in these rocking chairs as like 90-year-olds with our grandkids and our great grandkids like running around. And I breathe and I look at that and I think about that end picture. That's like the hole, if you will, that's where my proximity is trying to get. Like, am I getting closer to this picture of being happily married at 90 years old, holding each other's hands on the front porch, just underneath a ceiling fan, someplace beautiful with the grass and all the kids running around. And that's like, that gets me through the, okay, we got to, I got to take another kid to another practice. I got to do this. I got to do
Baby
like that.
Needs a bath.
Exactly.
Somebody's not feeling good.
It's like, no, that we're going someplace. We have a picture. There's a flagpole. You do not play golf without looking to where is the flag? You get up to you take your first swing. You find the flag. Where's the flag? And that's what we're talking about here.
Proximity to the hole.
So I would have to say that, did you ever, at any point in your career, you pretty much knew right away after you transitioned out of being in your own business, doing the janitorial and kind of doing your own business thing, you knew sales was it. You were going to do some form of professional sales.
Well, I think entrepreneur is not a job title. Like, nobody has a job title that says entrepreneur. But if you look at what's going on in business right now, oh my goodness sakes. You look at where our families' finances will be coming from in the future. Mm-hmm. It's AI, ChatGPT, social media, digital and social media marketing, software sales, content creation, creative, design. That's when I think about this family, I am constantly thinking about what are we going to do to make money? How
Hmm.
are we going to keep the engine going and continue to invest and fund all the things that we want to try to get done?
And it's not just for you. Like so many I hear, I want to retire. I want to retire. I need to make enough money for me
No,
to
it's the
retire.
engine
It's like
just
the
takes
whole
a lot of
thing. It's like,
gas.
okay, now we need to fund 9 people. Like, okay, what's it going to look
Yeah,
like
9 people and lifestyle and food and
together?
all the things there. But then also, there's businesses.
Yeah.
I have enough ideas for things that we could fund that you're never going to run out of ideas.
So what are some of the jobs that have gotten closer to proximity? Like I'm trying to think of like the transitionary ones. Like I remember, and it's so fun because like the kids when they listen to this, they're gonna be like, "Dad did what?" Like, okay, there was a day when you were Elon Musk's first employee and you were doing zip to before the internet, before mapping. You were
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
mapping.
I was trying to sell mapping.
You were selling mapping. So
Elon was
that's
coding it all day and all night, trying to get it to work.
and you were sales.
MapQuest. Think in terms of MapQuest. I
Right.
remember what MapQuest used to look like. It was like that. We were taking GIS, recently released government mapping data of addresses, and mixing that with business directories that were now made available online.
So you did that. And
It was
then
crazy.
you
We'll just
went
kind of go by the
into
5. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll
and
break
then
it down into 5 year.
POS systems.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
another one.
So I'll break it down into 5-year increments and kind
Okay.
of look at the jobs that were the big pivots.
And if it's old technology, you have to you have to remind us of like what is a POS system. We know what POS
yeah,
stands
we know what
for.
POS means, but point
But,
of sale.
yeah.
It means point of sale.
It was
So-
those machines, kids, where before you could tap to pay, you actually had to like put a
Swipe.
credit card in and drag it all
Yeah.
the way on the mag stripe. A mag stripe is the black line on the back. You
That's
had
right.
to drag it through. So that was your
So I'll
dad
go
did that.
through the jobs every 5 years. I'll pick a job that was like the most transformational. So
Okay.
I would say the commercial painting and cleaning business was transformational between 95 and 2000, more so than working for the Musk Brothers because I was only there maybe 6 months. And I did commercial.
But you could sell. You learned from going door to door with the Musk Brothers and going to Palo Alto, like how to sell. I think that you took that
think
into your because you
that-
had to go.
I still couldn't sell. No, I didn't learn how to sell until I got out, until later than that.
Really?
And
Because
then
I remember you going face to face in the apartment cleaning business in order to get those contracts, and you had to go like face to face, and you basically had to. I mean, you're. I just think that you've been the greatest.
the commercial painting and cleaning business was probably the most pivotal transition in between 90 and 2000. And that was just like I put my big boy pants on. I was in my own business, and then I had a business partner at that point for 2 of those years. And then 2000, you look at the bubble, right? I left Silicon Valley in 1996, and we moved back in 2003. Like I
It's almost
missed
like we missed it.
the entire boom and the bust
Mm-hmm.
for Silicon Valley. So still, I remember we were living in San Diego in like 2002, and these 2 kids were recruiters, and they were 21, 20 and 21, and they were each making $500,000, or they made $500,000 combined. They made $250,000 each, and I'm like, I don't make a tenth of that. And I just remember being really envious and wishing, like, God, I wish there was some way that we could get over the hump and figure this stuff out. But commercial painting, that really got me into business for myself. It got me keeping an accounting system and getting checks and paying taxes and filing on a Schedule C.
Carbon copy invoices.
Yeah, carbon copy invoices that I bought at
Yeah.
like
Office Supply.
right? And then in 2000, I would say between 2000 and 2005 was Perfigo. That was the most foundational. That ended up getting acquired. And then between 2005 and 2010 was Cisco and Tangile.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a couple of different technology companies.
But you mostly, I remember there was a point where you went from being in hardware sales because the point of sale systems were hardware sales, and then there was
Yep.
a really popular voice over IP thing going on, and I remember you specifically going, you know what, I don't want to stay in hardware because I feel like software. Well, maybe were you thinking that software was more flexible because hardware is a
There's just
physical
more
technology?
margin. There's more margin in software.
Okay.
Right.
Because
Hardware, you have to
you've even
sell a physical
morphed
box.
from software into now cloud, which is something even
Right.
more. And you were doing data like weren't you doing oh my gosh, they're the machines under the ground, like the servers. You were doing server rooms or data. You know better
I'm not
than
sure
you
what
know
you're
better than
what
me.
you're referring
Storage. I think I'm just thinking physical storage. You were going from
Yeah.
physical storage into, and the reason why I'm setting up the stair steps of like going from, hardware to software to storage to physical storage to now cloud storage is that it would appear that you've been taking from each of the previous
each one.
positions
The whole thing
and
was
building.
that if you look at it as what's the topic of this is family and
Yeah.
of proximity to the whole. Commercial painting got me in my business for myself. Perfigo showed me how to do a startup that exited. Cisco showed me the discipline and construct of working for a large company. No question, that was a big deal. Tagile, I did Tagile effectively so that I could help a very dear friend of mine at the time ramp up a business and prove to myself that I wasn't lucky
Mm-hmm.
from the Perfigo. That was the real bone that I had to pick with
It'd
myself.
be like getting an eagle and then getting an eagle again.
Well, it was like it'd be like making a par and then basically doing triple bogey your entire life, and then you make a par, and it's like I want to make one more par,
yeah.
right? So that I prove that making a par isn't getting a hole in one,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And then if you come out of that, 2010 was a really difficult period of time because the financial markets were upside down. We started Tagile during that period, and I was so broke. I didn't even let my partner know how broke we really were because I didn't want that to impact his view of my willingness to be involved in the business. But Tagile showed me what it was like to suffer, to like just work all the time, to have no money. You guys all had holes in your teeth because we didn't have health insurance. I had bald tires on the one car that didn't get repossessed. We had two cars that were repossessed. I remember you traded a 10-year diamond anniversary band in so that we hawked that so we could pay the rent. We sold all of the Kruger and coins that we had possession of at the time in order to pay rent, and bled out all of our 401k, our cash, and sold every piece of stock that we had to build that company so that we could maintain the vision and get closer to the whole. And I still look at that as a huge victory because I got out of Tagile what I really wanted, which was to learn how to build a startup from cocktail napkin to Series A. With Perfigo, we already had a Series A, and we took it from Series A to a public company exit. But we already had momentum. We had a product. We weren't creating anything. The product was already baked, as baked as you could be for a startup with 15 people. And but we sold it, and it worked, and it was awesome. But if we come out of that, 2010 was really about resolve and about how to deal with failure and suffering and starvation and just a really difficult work environment in a no-win situation, and how to pivot from a Kobayashi Maru situation to a next series of gigs. By 2015, I was at Intel. And from Intel, I learned how to close large enterprise deals, 7-figure and 8-figure software contracts, which, the key to that from one of my mentors there, I asked him, like, how do you do it? How do you close the big software contracts? And he said, the key is don't blink. Put the paper in front of them and don't blink. So I learned how not to blink. And then in 2020, between 2015 and 2020 was IBM, working for IBM, and then running my consulting business and getting up to $1 million a year run rate in consulting after leaving IBM Watson. So if we look at that progression, each of those things got us closer to the target of having, high income, no debt outside of your leveraged investments, and being able to live on half of what you make. And
having this picture of this family that has been coming along, that's been being able to see the building process.
That's right.
Because,
and I don't worry about our kids, but I do worry about their kids being too far removed from seeing what
Yeah.
it actually takes, because there's a character build and a firing of the mind and of the emotions that doesn't happen in a year or 2 years or 5 years or even 10 years. I mean, it's decades of day after day after day after day of trying and failing, and financial catastrophe, cars getting repossessed, and insurance that lapses, and lights that get turned off. And it doesn't always have to be that way for everybody, but the big hitters that I see that win big and get the 10 million and 100 million and $1 billion payouts, they all seem to go through decades of trying and recalibrating and reworking things, and startups that don't work, and setbacks and failures. And then one day things just click, and all of a sudden the manifestation of the finances and the picture and the publicity and the front page on Forbes all shows up. But that's not where it's built.
Well, it's interesting because as we're paralleling this podcast and what I've been studying for the talks that I've been doing, and the talks that we've been talking about this whole entire month, has been on patience. And the word patience means to suffer. And so it's interesting that I hear you saying, like, the suffering is also, if you think about it from a standpoint, it's the patience. It's what you're doing in sustaining. The question then becomes, how are you handling it internally? How is while your mental toughness muscles are getting built, and you're being patient, and you're going through this ongoing barrage of being beat through your circumstances into birthing this beautiful, magnificent magnum opus and getting closer to the hole, which we can all testify to if you've played a single round of golf at San Jose Municipal. You know who I'm not San Jose Municipal, San Jose Country Club. It's like your goat because you're stepping all over everything. That golf is exhausting. Life is exhausting. Getting closer to the hole is exhausting because you can't drive the ball. You can't physically be behind in the golf cart going
Or
and
walking.
following your ball the whole way. Like, you've got to get physically out of your comfort zone. You've got to get physically onto terra firma, and you've got to get your ball to where it's going. The ball's not going to go there by itself. And
You gotta
so,
navigate
like,
the
the
course.
patience and the suffering, the being able to go through all of those momentary losses in order to get to the win is what we're talking about. That's what the Jeff Heilman Project is about. That's what you're all about.
That's what our audience is all about, because I'm starting to have phone calls, conversations, lunch meetings, text messages, LinkedIn posts, and comments about the podcast. Not lots and lots. I mean, we're getting hundreds of listens and sometimes thousands of views on shorts, but it's still relatively new. I mean, this is new.
Yeah.
We don't have millions of fans. We have a few hundred folks that download and maybe 100 subscribers. So grateful for y'all. But what we are doing is we're getting into a consistent rhythm of creating a content piece where you and I, we've talked about having a show for years and years, and we've started and stopped, and I just didn't see the value in it until recently. And thank you for letting me off the hook about that and jumping in when I was ready. But the comments that I'm getting from people are that, first of all, you are lovely and great. Everybody loves
Aw.
you. You're really the star of the show. It seems that the content that we're creating is valuable to people, that the point of view that we have is something that people are interested in hearing about, and which I wouldn't even really have believed, I guess, until people started telling me. It's fun to talk about our family and to talk about what I think other people with their families would like to know about. And I think there are the couple that we had over for dinner last night. I was telling them about the late Mr. and Mrs. Rozos, Virginia and
Yes.
Constantine Rozos. God rest their souls, from Lake Oswego, Oregon, when Jessica and I were 21, 22 years old, and we had our first little kid. Jeffrey wasn't even walking. In fact, I
Nope.
think he learned how to walk.
He took
at
his
their
first steps
condominium.
in their condo. Yeah.
Yeah. But we met this couple who was in their late 80s, or I think Constantine might have been 90.
Man, they were old.
And Virginia was like 86 or 87 when we met them at 20.
Yeah.
We were 20 and 22, I think. And they would have us over.
Yeah.
And we would go up to their little one-bedroom
I think they were angels.
apartment.
I call them angels,
They
but
might
they
have
were.
been.
They were. I'm
They
sure
might
they
have
were in
been
the flesh,
angels.
but
he had been, he was, my name is Costa.
Yeah.
They call
Yeah.
him Costa. He's from
Oh my
some
God, they
island
used
in
to
Greece.
serve spanakopita, and then for dessert, we would have vanilla ice cream with cantaloupe. Do you remember?
I do.
And because he knew how to get the freshest cantaloupe.
Oh,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. So yeah, sorry.
Yeah, they were
I
great.
digress.
And he was in the Merchant Marine, so he would be gone for 6 months, home for 6 months, gone for 6 months, home for a year.
Yeah.
And they would go and do their thing, and then he would be gone for 6 months, home for 6 months, gone for 6 months, home for a year, out of a condo. I think they lived in New Jersey, and she raised 2 or 3 kids, I think, in that situation. And if he was 90 in 1990, that means he was born at turn of the last century.
Yeah.
So, and they just loved our kid. They loved us. They loved what we stood for, and the fact that we were entrepreneurs and we were trying to make a go of it. And we had our little family in our tiny 400 square foot apartment. And those beginnings, those humble beginnings, if there's people out there who are in their 60s, but let's go through the numbers. If you're in your 90s, your legacy's safe with us. What you built in this country will be preserved by our family and millions of other families in this country. And don't lose hope. If you're in your 80s, you still got time. If you're in your 70s, why would you retire? Why would you retire when you can serve and work and gain such satisfaction?
And dispense your wisdom.
And dispense your wisdom to the people that need it in ways that don't take a lot of physical exertion and can still pay you more than people are making on Social Security. Faux show, thanks to social media. If you're in your 60s and you're thinking about retirement, turn it around. Think about turning the page and making a new chapter. If you're in your 50s, which I'm going to be here in another 15 months, 18 months, if you're in your 50s, you have 5 more lifetimes left because of the rate at which change is happening. And you can literally go through the time warp and come out the other side and make millions and millions of dollars and have an incredible career and travel the world and do private jets on NetJet cards if that's what you want to do, or raise a family. I have a friend of mine that had some kids in his late 40s, and he's loving it. He's having the time of his life, having kids with a younger wife, and he was never married until he was in his mid 40s, and then he married a gal in her 30s, and he's got a kid at 52, I think, and just having a great time with it. If you're in your 40s, life is just beginning. If you're in your 30s, life hasn't begun yet, hasn't even started getting as good as it's going to get, in my opinion. And if you're in your 20s and you're thinking, what am I going to do with my life? You have so much time. And I would just say, fail, try, go for proximity to the hole, try to hit the 300-yard drive if you can. Because over time, what I try to tell people getting started hitting golf balls is learn how to hit the ball hard and then learn how to hit it straight.
That's good. That's good. Well, everybody, we hope you appreciate, we appreciate, we hope that you have enjoyed this continuing episode of Family and Jeff's 9 Daily Disciplines, discipline number 8. The next episode that we have is going to remind us that you have to stop and take that picture every now and again. Just like I was thinking as you were talking about that picture that you had seen of the Kennedys, they actually had to first of all, they had to gather on a retreat and get everybody together. Then they had to stop and take the picture. And so for episode number 9 in this series, and for the 9 weeks that we've been going through it, we're going to be talking about recreation and the value of being able to stop and take that picture. So you won't want to miss it. You'll want to tune back in next Friday.
You can text us.
And you can text us.
Do we have the number you can text us at?
We do. It will be following this episode, but in case you tune it off, it's 203-646-1472. And remember to comment OTS, which means okay to share, if you would like us to talk about it, because we've got a lot more episodes, and we cannot wait to continue to addressing and continue the conversation with you. It's been so fun. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Any last thoughts?
Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, wherever podcasts are sold.
Love you guys. Have an awesome rest of your day.
And Apple and Spotify.
Bye.
Thanks.